So, WhiskyJason here, a whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Europe at the moment. Now I'm in Ireland together with
Michael Morris
from the
Quadman Distillery.
And where are we exactly?
We are in the building where we are going to be producing the Quadman Irish whiskey in the city of Derry in Ireland.
This is a first, isn't it?
Yeah, you are, as an audience, the first time to see inside the building, and our friend is the first from the trade to come and see us here on site.
So this really is a privilege for me. Very, very good. Now, a lot of people really don't know the Quiet Men brand yet. Could you tell us a little bit about the history, first of all?
Okay, the market for us has been very interesting. We launched the Quadman around 3 years ago. It's essentially the cask whiskies that we have bought across the island of Ireland as part of the business plan. The brand is now exporting to 28 markets. We are in most of the European, Far Eastern markets, do a lot of good business in America. And of course, one of the most important and one of the first markets that we sold both the blended whiskey and the single malt was Germany.
Right. Exactly, and you may remember my single malt sherry cask 9-year-old that I did not like. The next one I did like, though.
I remember that. Yeah. I was very pleased, otherwise we may not have opened the door today.
Yeah, exactly. So the other ones were really good. That one really wasn't great. Now, 3 years old is not very, very old, but yet you do have a company history. Who was behind and who is now behind this brand?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. The parent company was Niche Drinks, and we are primarily in the core business Irish cream liqueur. So over the last 30 years, behind Bailey's, we are probably the second largest Irish cream liqueur company in Ireland. We have been supplying most of the UK supermarkets and big European supermarkets for many years, and it is that business which has driven the profit and the revenue that we are now ploughing into this new distillery. And this was a vision of Kieran Mulgrew, who is both the MD of Niche Drinks and the son of the Quadman himself, John Mulgrew.
And John was called the Quiet Man because of what bartending activities?
Yeah, John was, Irish people are known to be quite feisty, a little loud, sometimes a little bit, probably overly so. John was an Irish speaker, and his name in Irish was Anfir Cuan, and Anfir Cuan means the quiet man. So John was a bartender for 50 years in Belfast. He was a great man for listening and not telling any tales. And he was the inspiration for us, because when he died, we decided, and Kieran decided, to call the new distillery after his father.
Absolutely great. Now, Kieran decided a few months ago to do a little bit something different. Yeah. Would you explain a little bit about the new owners?
Yeah, so what we've now got is, and we're all very excited about this, we have been doing business with a company called Luxco in America on a joint venture basis. They sell and have been selling some Brendan's cream liqueur that we make for them here in Derry. However, they're also really whiskey people. They own the Rebel Yell brand and so on in Kentucky. And they have now taken a majority share of our company, and we are now going to be working together in all of the international markets, selling Irish whiskey, Irish cream, American bourbon, and also we own a distillery in Mexico, tequila.
Right. So very, very interesting. Luxco is the company to watch. They have built a new distillery in Kentucky. They are producing themselves. They will be producing their own Irish whiskey. They have their own tequila. They have their own Irish, what is it called again? Cream?
Irish cream liqueur.
Exactly. Irish cream liqueur, exactly. Yes, and so they have all the facilities actually, or will have them soon. It's amazing what happened there. Now, what is this going to be actually? We just see the construction side, and what's the time frame?
Yeah, so we have been working, these are originally almost 100-year-old old military buildings. So it's a listed building site. We have had to be very careful to protect the outside of the building, which no doubt you'll see on the video. But internally, we have now created the space where in this building, for instance, this is going to be part of a museum, part of the space and the area where people get some information before they go into the actual distilling space, which is in the building next door, which you're also going to see.
Excellent. All right, so we're upstairs in the same building now. Tell us a little bit more, please.
Okay, so we're putting and spending a lot of money on a first-rate visitor centre. So as well as being a serious production site for single malt Irish whiskey, we also want to make sure that the visitors get a true experience of everything to do with the history of whiskey making in Ireland, here in Derry, and our own brand. So here in this space, we're going to create almost like a mini museum where people can get the history of Irish whiskey in Derry in particular and really put our own stamp on the experience. So this is going to be an absolutely fabulous, plenty of light. You're able to actually see the city out the windows. Yep. And as I say, this has created quite a space on top of the production site so that people get an excellent experience.
Okay. So let's go to the window. Let's go see if we can see something out of this. Come in here a little bit more. You can actually see the Peace Bridge. Could you explain a little bit about the Peace Bridge, since not everyone knows about that either?
Well, it's actually quite famous. Back in the day, in the early Troubles, I'm talking about the 1970s, a lot of the trouble in Northern Ireland would have been happening here in Derry. And the other side of the city, on the other side of Lough Foyle, is called the city side, and this is the side we're on, is the water side. Mm-hmm. And that would almost been in many ways a sectarian split in the city between the kind of warring factions back in the day. But with the help of European money, which is why we're all good, very, very good Europeans up here in Derry, the Peace Bridge was constructed to link the two parts of the city as a symbol, in reality, of the new Ireland and the fact that, happily, there's peace now in our country.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're now outside of the distilling house that people will be able to see from this wonderful bridge here, much better view than out of the window upstairs. Now explain what happens if you just go down this river a little bit. What could you see on a good day?
Yeah, so on a good day at the end of Lough Foyle here, beyond the hills in the distance, you've got a very, very good view of Scotland. You don't need a pair of binoculars on a nice summer's day. You can see Islay, you can see basically the end of the Mull where Campbelltown is. Very, very close. It's only, I think at its widest point is 22 miles. So it's our Scottish cousins are very close to us.
Now, this is the layman speaking. Is there a ferry connection? Could we actually do those islands and come over and hop over and do Irish whiskey in the future?
At the moment, there is talk that they're going to build a bridge, believe it or not.
That's going to be 2045.
Exactly. They are talking about that. That is a dangerous stretch of water, even on a good day. Yeah. So the way to do it would normally be to go to get a ferry from Larne or Belfast over to Stranraer. Right. And then make the coach trip up. You can do it from Ballycastle over to Islay, but it only runs in the summer when and is a very dangerous bit of water. I've been over on a small boat, and that is not for the faint-hearted.
All right, thank you very much. There's a big square we're at now. I think this used to be a military use. Tell a little bit about what actually is this place and what was used before.
Yeah, so this back in the day was called Ebrington Army Camp. So the British Army were based here for many years. Before that, it was naval personnel here at the time of the Second World War. But all the way in the latter part of the last century, British Army were here. And this area that you see was the parade ground where the army would, who were here for the whole period of the Troubles, they were based here, and this was a parade ground. The buildings over here, in fact, were where the officers' mess and where the officers stayed.
Yeah, very good. And what's behind us? What will this be one day?
The wonderful thing behind the wooden partition here will be the entrance to our wonderful new distillery. So our guests will be coming. Going to be great parking here. It's going to be fantastic access. You will be absolutely blown away by the vista because you'll see the city over here and our distillery behind us. And in fact, this what that we're standing in front will be the corridor between the entry point, which is going to be essentially like the old bar that John Mulgrew used to run, and the actual physical museum, and then the actual distillery at the bottom end of the building.
And I think everything's going to be englassed, right?
Yeah, we have taken a decision to make this incredibly high tech. Inside is going to be a mix of old and new, but from the outside we're going to use glass and light to really make this something special.
And when will you be finished with all the construction so you can start distilling?
Yeah, we hope to commission the stills in the autumn of 2019 with a view to making everything, including the visitor centre, complete by early 20. Right. And the hope will be that when the builders go back on site, the equipment is all ready, sitting off site, and we're getting ready to ratchet up in the final phase.
Very good. And of course, if you start distilling 2019, 2022, with 3 years and 1 day, you'll be releasing the first whiskey here, correct?
Not really, actually. Our plan is a single malt distillery. Although some of the single malt will actually end up in blended whiskey after 4 years, the majority of the stock will be held for many years. So depending on how quickly the maturation happens, we've spent so much money at this, and so much money is now being invested by Luxco, that we want to make sure that, frankly, the first product and the first production is right. So my feeling, it might be 8, 9, 10 years before full production is in the market.
Excellent. A little bit similar to Waterford. If you have deep pockets behind you, it's possible. But I think you're also going to make a little bit of white something. What exactly are you going to make there?
Yeah, we have a gin still arriving shortly. And obviously, again, this is all about, number one, bringing in some, frankly, much needed revenue while we're doing all the work. But also, it'll help us to create, as long as we can produce some beautiful liquid, an awareness across the international markets that we're here, that we're in production, and that we're in the process of building something very large.
Exactly. Now, so far, most of your juice has come from Cooley, if I remember correctly, which was double distilled. Now you're going to do triple distilled. Why that decision?
Yeah, well, we have decided that triple distillation is going to be the signature of the whiskey that we're making. We feel that is heavily identified with the island of Ireland. It gives us a distinction against Scotch, and frankly, that's one of the reasons why we intend to be at the forefront of triple distilled single malt.
Exactly. And will there be variations as well? Maybe some pot still, or maybe some peated whiskey in there in between every once in a while?
Yeah, we are hoping to have part of our reputation built around innovation. So our hope will be that we will make small batches of peated single malt, some pot still. Most of it will be top quality single malt, but absolutely we intend to make these different types of whiskies, and we're also very much at the forefront of wood management. So we're currently conducting a lot of negotiations to get the best possible wood.
Exactly, it's so important. Now, my question is, you're going to distill here. How big are the pot stills?
We have 3 stills, which are going to be 3,500 capacity. So our annual capacity here in total terms will be 500,000 litres of pure alcohol. Yeah. So quite a significant size. Exactly. And then because we're going to be buying grain elsewhere in the island of Ireland, because our blended whiskey will be very important to us, we're going to be probably twice that in terms of actual physical liquid.
Very good. And your pot stills are from the same producer as Teeling, if I remember correctly, from Italy. What producer was that?
Yeah, Frulli in Italy, who are building a fantastic reputation for new wave whiskey, beautiful pot stills, and they will be arriving shortly. In fact, we hope to shoot a video of the stills arriving down the Foyle by river, hopefully, and we'll have something nice to show on Facebook and elsewhere once that happens.
I'm sure I'm going to link to that as well. Very, very good. So the distillation is done here, the bottling is done up there by Niche, and then the warehouse is also another couple kilometers away, where it's going to be then matured for at least 8, maybe even 10 years. Fabulous.
Yeah, we put, as I say, we're leaving nothing to chance. So we already have 2 first-class bottling lines ready and available, already being used. The distillation will happen here, and the warehousing is in Campsie within 5 miles of here.
All right, so we're now in a new room. Where are we? What is this?
So we're very excited about this. When you actually come into the building, you will obviously meet the receptionist, be greeted and so on. But because, and for the memory of John Mulgrew, our plan is to have something of the scene of what his bar would have been like back in the day in Belfast, so that people make the direct connection between John's memory, Kieran's vision, and the new distillery. So this whole area is going to be quite intimate.
Very, very nice. So drywall's already in, so this is going to be one of the first things finished, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We are expecting, obviously, a huge amount of interest. So we need to start developing something that we can take people to, of which you're one of the first, and bring people in, because already we're getting inundated with requests to come and see the distillery. As you can see, at the moment, there isn't a lot to see, but the appreciation will be that we'll get a couple of the buildings ready so that we can start doing PR, meet our trade customers. For me, as an international person dealing with primarily the European markets, and in fact, I have an open invitation to my friends in Alba in Germany to be one of the first over here when it's open and ready.
All right, very good. Didi is going to be very, very happy about that, and so on. Now, the next question is, I was in Eich. Elchinville
Yes.
at the distillery, and they mentioned something about a Northern Irish whiskey trail.
Yeah.
Ideas, a concept. What's your personal opinion?
Well, my opinion on that is very, very positive because whiskey tourism, I've been to many distilleries in Scotland and I've also know what's happening down south. Ireland is a tiny place in terms of territory and geography. In Derry here, we've got a very unique situation because there's a thing called the Causeway Coast, which runs up the Antrim coast all the way up to Giant's Causeway, Bushmills, and that essentially ends in Derry. So we can be either a start or an end point. Going the other way into the Republic of Ireland, which is only a number of small miles here to our west, we can be also a starting or end point for the Wild Atlantic Way, which runs all the way down the west coast of Ireland. So with the distilleries like Ecklinville and so on being populated around the island, people can not only see this beautiful country for what it's like, but they can also stop off with great pubs and obviously the distilleries as well. So I'm a great believer of it.
I think it'd be very, very good. And actually, I'm doing the Irish Whiskey Trail myself right now. I'm just visiting the different distilleries in a certain manner along the East Coast, and it's worked out fairly well. All right, so you're going to give us a little bit of a walkthrough now. Explain what happens.
Okay, so when the visitors arrive, they will actually come through the buildings on the end, which is the reception, the John Mulgrew room. They will then work their way through a museum where the history of whiskey making in Derry, whiskey making in Ireland, where we fit into that concept. But the beautiful stuff will be when you arrive in this space behind me.
The wooden fence.
Behind the wooden fence will be a great glass box where the beautiful pot stills will be sitting.
So I'm going to try to actually now put that picture on here, what will happen in the future. So hopefully you can see that.
Yeah, and it's if in real life it looks anything like that visual representation, it's going to be stunning.
Yep.
Because the whole point will be that we want the people in the city of Derry to be able to see this from the river and from the other side. It'll be wonderful. And then at the very final bit, when you arrive through the actual distillery, you'll come into our bar area. And again, what we're going to do there is we're not going to be trying to run a bar restaurant that competes with people in the city. It'll be about the range of whiskies, the new make and so on a wonderful space that overlooks the foil. It's just going to be tremendous.
Thank you very much. So one last thing, what I really, really like is the entire concept that Derry has here. This was the old military base, and now they turn it into a tourism place. We have the distillery, we have the brewery over here, we have a nice hotel that's coming in there. There's a wonderful concept of converting this place amazing. WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Europe at the moment, together with
Michael Morris
from
the Quadman Distillery.
And we're looking forward to everything you're going to bring out in the future, aren't we?
Indeed. And Dankeschön.